What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and it looks like it's about to be a very busy morning because we just got the announcement of a new indie Nintendo Direct, and additionally, Microsoft has come out and revealed pretty much every single tiny detail about the Xbox Series X, including tons of very interesting comparison screenshots that I want to go over. First and foremost, let's talk about this indie Direct. As you can see, I have it here on the screen. This is happening tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so this will be noon for me. And it sounds like it's going to be cool. Check out about 20 minutes of information on indie games coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, I know some people already are going, when's the next main Direct? When are they going to be talking about something that's not Animal Crossing or tiny little projects? I definitely think we're going to be getting that very, very soon. Mark my words, before the end of March, so within the next 14 days, I bet we're going to see another Direct. But let's talk about something that's definitely a lot bigger, a lot more groundbreaking, which is this. The Xbox Series X. So apparently what they did is they just decided to fly out tons of journalists from all the major tech gaming websites and have them just see and play the Xbox Series X. This is a full set of huge details. Now, I'm going to link this article down below because it is thousands of words all about why this machine is, in my opinion, this is different. We're now entering a very, very new phase of gaming in general, but some of the stuff in this that really jumps out to me is just the fact that, I mean, the graphics of this thing are going to be utterly beastly. I mean, 4K is going to be a breeze with this machine, but something that really struck me that I want to talk about is this is going to have external memory. You're going to have expandable storage, and it's going to have a built-in 1 terabyte hard drive as well. So this definitely means a lot of the rumors about this thing having a lot of internal graphics, a lot of stuff that's actually on the hard drive, that is now confirmed. And the fact that it has an expansion card, this to me is very, very good, especially because here at the bottom of the article, they show it and it looks like basically a big old juicy memory card. Look at this. This is so funny. I'm honestly thinking about, imagine the times where you're going to want to install like a giant 4K game and you go over to your friend's house and then instead of waiting to install the game there, you could just plug in your SSD and immediately play it. The main thing I want to talk about, because we don't actually have a lot of graphics and gameplay from Xbox Series X games playing right now, I want to talk about some of the stuff that they're teasing about backwards compatibility and just in general, how these games are going to feel better. I mean, something I'm really hoping the most with the next generation is that these games feel improved. The PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, this generation more than anything has sort of, for the first time, kind of emphasized the importance of playability, about making sure your games are bug-free, trying to have the smallest day one patches possible, and making sure that if you have online features, your servers absolutely work. And so I think that with the next generation, now that they realize what they've done wrong and what they've done right, it seems like what they want to do with the Xbox Series X is kind of expand these ideas in a bunch of new styles. But the biggest thing to me is it definitely looks like they want everything to be as fluid and as pristine as possible from the technical aspect. Now, I'm having to skip a huge part of this article just because it is so big, but the key thing that's hit on over and over again here is definitely that they want this to be extremely easy to make games for. Even the biggest, most impossible projects are going to have thousands of tiny switches and knobs that can be essentially flipped to give the developers every single tool they absolutely need. Hearing these people talk about the hardware they've created and what they've managed to do is kind of phenomenal, but there's a couple key points I really want to hit here, kind of that are more in the layman's terms, stuff that everybody can understand, because let's face it, I'm definitely not a techno guru. I kind of just like to see the games and play some cool stuff, but even a few things in here are absolutely understandable to people like me, like this. Without hardware acceleration, this work has become a done in the shaders and would have consumed over 13 teraflops alone. For the Xbox Series X, this work is offloaded onto dedicated hardware and the shaders can continue to run in parallel with full performance. In other words, Series X can effectively tap the equivalent of over 25 teraflops of performance while ray tracing. Now that sounds like some random technical talk, but the real thing that it's trying to lay out is the fact that what they're doing with the Xbox Series X is they're trying to make it where it's going to be the most efficient computer ever. To make it where if you're creating games for it, it's going to be easy to program for, it's going to be easy to sell your games, but more than that, it's going to be able to make your games look incredibly professional right up front. So they have some of these screenshots here to try and explain what that's going to look like. This is DXR, and as you can see on the left here, this is basically comparing against like an Xbox Series X, or this is Xbox Series X versus Xbox One. These are kind of just crazy, and I've looked at these before I started recording, but getting a chance to see them again, obviously this is Minecraft, one of the most hilariously basic games ever, and they have some other stuff here in the future, but it creates a really good taste about how it's trying to make it where the system has all these underlying pieces in it. The analogy I've heard in the past is, what if you were trying to build a house and one person had a giant empty plot of land and another person had all the plumbing and all the foundation already established and all you needed to do was set the house on top. This definitely is a scenario where Microsoft is doing as much work as possible already up front just to make it where you could drop your game into it. I mean, this is kind of bonkers. The fact that they're managing to create so much ray tracing inside of existing environments. It's kind of funny that they're doing all this testing in comparison with Minecraft screenshots, but it's also just kind of a demonstration about how Minecraft will never die. Alright, now here's the really important parts that I feel like a lot of us are curious about the most, which is a lot of us are worried that this console is going to be extremely expensive, and they kind of address that here in the efficiency of design. One of the key takeaways for me about the Series X Silicon isn't just the power, but also the efficiency in design. With all the new graphics features and the 12 teraflops of consistent compute performance, we envisioned a monstrously large, prohibitively expensive processor design. In short, a very expensive console. However, the size of the system on chip at 360mm means that we'll have a slice of silicon that is, in reality, much smaller than any speculative measurements we could have come up with prior to the teaser reveal. Its 14 billion transistors means that we're looking at over twice the density of the 16. Basically, what this is saying is that they're getting more power and more efficiency and more strength out of a chip that really isn't that much more massive. It's really saying that, surprisingly, as much as this stuff is managing to do, as much as this is really kind of a technical marvel, it might not be that expensive because the physical real estate isn't that complicated. This is so crazy. I mean, Microsoft is doing such a giant leap in technology here, and I hope that people are able to get a chance to acknowledge that this is some real groundbreaking stuff we're seeing right here. Alright, so the last thing that I really want to talk about is really focusing on that solid-state hard drive and taking a look at the controller, because yes, they gave us a good look at it. Why fast storage changes everything. The specs on this page represent only the tiniest fraction of the potential of the storage solution Microsoft has engineered for the next generation. In last year's Project Scarlet E3 teaser, Jason Rowland, the partner director of project management at Xbox, described how the SSD could be used as a virtual memory, a teaser of sorts that only begins to hint at the functionality of Microsoft has built into its systems. On the hardware level, the custom NVMe drive is very, very different to any other kind of solid-state drives you've ever seen before. It's shorter for starters, presenting more of like a memory card of old. It's also rather heavy, down to the solid metal construction that acts as a heat sink that has to handle silicon that consumes 3.8 watts of power. Many PC solid-state drives fade in performance terms as they heat up, and similar to CPU and GPU clocks, this simply wasn't acceptable to Microsoft to believe that consistent performance across the board is a must for design to their console. So basically they're saying they're really trying to get this thing to run as smoothly as possible, as well as possible, and honestly, it's still just kind of shocking that they managed to do this. It's kind of impressive that we're in the future where you can have a memory card that is a terabyte that can actually have every bit of your data on it. And clearly seeing the screenshots, not only is this technology done, but it's kind of weird to think about the fact that we're now at a time period where you could have hundreds of games actually stored and installed on a tiny little memory card that could fit in your pocket. Now there is some more screenshots here. There's a lot of stuff about how they're trying to basically make the playability of this liquidy smooth, to make it where there's not even a micro milliseconds of delay while playing. That's fantastic. But here is the controller. Okay, so things are a little bit different. As you can see, we now have an additional menu-ish buttons. We have the Xbox button, we have the options, we have like the frame and frame. A lot of the stuff that existed is still here. So we have all this, but now we have these extra buttons like this. It does look smoother. This is a little bit more of a liquidy form factor. I really wish I could hold this to see how heavy it feels and if it's going to have like more paddles and stuff. It definitely has the updated headphone jack. This is sort of like a version. This is like a merging together of the Xbox Pro controller and also the standard Xbox One controller that's really cheap. I hope that they make this as affordable and cheap as possible, but God, I want to play with that. Oh, it looks smaller and more accessible. Oh, I want to play with that controller so freaking bad. I'm definitely going to be buying a couple of those. The final thing I want to hit on is something that to me is probably the most appealing and still one of the things that's getting me the most interested in purchasing the Xbox Series X Day 1, which is that it's clearly going to have a humongous catalog of backwards compatible games. But they're talking more about how this is going to be able to do some dramatic, impossible upgrades that could not exist on anything else. I mean, you couldn't get these games to play this good even on an Xbox One X. Here's the thing, I love this idea. I think it's really cool that the evolving, growing Microsoft catalog is going to keep expanding and everything that's ever existed for the most part is going to come forward with us. They have some screenshots here that are delicious. Now, I'm obsessed with Gears of War, so maybe I'm just fanboying about this, but look at this. Xbox Series X native 4K rendering. Look at that. Look at the individual leaves on the trees. Now, I'm going to render this video in 1080p, so I'm not sure how much that this is actually even going to come out, but let me just try and explain this to you. It's very, very clear that texturally, things are going to be different. Texturally, they're actually managing to pull more just general power out of this system. This is fantastic, and it's really kind of explaining that, I don't know, I'm just so excited for the fact that we're really reaching new heights of technical power. We are in the freaking future, everybody, but now it just comes down to games. I'm glad they're showing all sorts of stuff like heat maps and luminescence for Halo 5. We need to see Halo Infinite. We need to see Sinuous Sacrifice. We need to see that stuff that basically says, here is why you should be hyped about exclusives for the Xbox Series X. But what do you think? I'm linking this down below, that way we can all read it together. This is a very big information dump that I think people are going to be going over this now for literally weeks. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I have not had my coffee or breakfast. I'm going to edit this while I eat because, whoa, I want you guys to talk about this. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm legit hyped for the comment section. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.